Does everybody feel ready?
I'm ready.
Good. Wait. I'm sorry? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us this afternoon. We're going to call the workshop meeting, it's a board workshop meeting to order. It is now 2:42. Oh, excuse me, 12:42. Thank you so much. 12:42 p.m.
It may feel like 2:42.
No, we're much better than that. Okay. As we call this meeting to order, the Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. We have no one signed up for public comment, so we will move directly into item number 3, presentation of an update on master plan projects. Dr. Burton?
Actually, it'll go to me if that's all right.
It's perfectly fine.
And then I'm going to pass it in just a moment. Trustees, we're very excited about the opportunity for you to have this discussion today. This is going to be very important as you discuss what you're going to see today, and it'll give us guidance as how to proceed in the future. We have a number of guests with us today. I'm going to ask Leighton Schubert to start off this presentation. He will then in turn turn it over to other staff who will introduce our guests. This is a discussion, so we do anticipate that this meeting will last probably an hour, but take your time, ask all the questions you desire, and it will be very helpful as we take away today's discussion and going forward at the Waller campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hensley, Chair, rest of the board. It's great to be with you guys again on the board workshop. Really a great presentation today. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing this information, walk away with a much better understanding of lots of different operations that are happening in Waller and will be happening. Here's kind of lay of the land. The first item we'll talk about is the Waller Campus Master Plan update. Mark and really a great team of experts, both internal and external, will come and talk about adjacent development plans, existing site conditions, data analytics, the master planning items. Then we're going to walk into the career and technical education. Jay Anderson, Vice Chancellor Anderson, will lead that presentation on the current offerings that we're doing currently in the greater Waller area. And of course, as you know, the administration, we never like to just rest on what we're doing now. We're going to talk about some potential expansion opportunities as well. So there's a lot of folks that are going to come up and talk today. I'm going to have Mark introduce them as they come. And so Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you and we can kick it off.
Thank you, Mr. Schubert. Chairman, board members, really proud to have a great team here today to talk to us about the master plan update for our Waller area, our Waller campus. Today, talking about adjacent development plans, we're going to have Daniel Powell with Oldham Goodwin. Chris Harris with Kimley Horn is going to be talking about existing site conditions, kind of a bridge between some due diligence that we performed as we were looking at purchasing the property. We've got Mr. Doug Lowe with FP&C providing us with data analytics. That's the demographics update for our master plan that is driving the decisions that are being made in the master plan. And then we have Mr. Michael Korb with Canon Design, our architect for the master plan and the design, to talk to us and give us an update on the master plan. So right now I'm going to ask Mr. Powell to come up, give us an update. And Daniel, if you just want to click through, you've got a few slides there.
Thank you. In regards to the developments around the new campus, you can see from the slide thousands of new homes. 44 plus or 43 plus thousand lots are platted and in new development right now. The Pete Terpstra Development Bryan Town Center, Waller Town Center, excuse me. He's been having some health problems. No real movement has been with any additional sales of his land or development. There is, of course, lots of retail that are planned, grocery, hotel, and some office. Multifamily was another big portion. The portion that he kept for the corner, he plans for multifamily. Daikin, obviously they have their 4.3 million square foot facility everyone knows about. They have increased their square footage and leased another distribution center in Waller, just on the other side of 290, South 290, by 500,000 square feet. And Granger is in the process of building a 1.2 million square foot distribution center that's roughly 7 miles just to the southeast down 290. Mustang Cat and HEB Distribution Center, these are a little bit further out, but up towards Hempstead, still within roughly 12 miles of our site. No, sir, that's a little bit further, just past Prairie View A&M, looking at the northwest side of it. But that'll be a 5,000 acre HEB distribution center. And then at Mustang Cat, their headquarters, I don't have the square footage, but it is going to be a $30 million headquarters right there at 290 and Highway 6. There's another HEB grocery store that looks like they're going to develop on the north side of 290, again, within about a 10-mile radius of this site. There are numerous kind of industrial parks. The one directly across from the site, the Benford Road Business Park, it is roughly 80 acres that they are going to be continuing to develop right there. The site has 3 buildings currently on it with 16,000 square foot range right in the middle, and they have another site, another building that is going to be going up here within this next year as they continue to develop it out. The fuel center, it is also fully operational, and that is on the adjacent corner to the Blinn site. And there's another commercial park just 4 miles on Premier Road, just to the southwest, again, just up 290 from the Blinn site. They have 8 buildings on the ground between 5,500 and 15,000 square feet buildings. They have 18 acres of additional land to develop, and we expect that to continue on over the next 2 to 3 years as the growth continues up the 290 corridor.
Can you tell us what that capital red T, I can't read that.
That's Terpstra. That is the Waller Town Center development. It's basically, I've got this slide right here. You can see what he has envisioned. All the red areas are for the retail. The blue is, it was initially anticipated as medical office and office. I would expect mostly retail to be developed within this corridor. And of course, you see the multifamily there, corner, just next to the Blinn Waller campus. No, sir, none of that is scheduled. It is still raw land. As I mentioned, Pete Terpstra is having a little bit of health issues, and nothing has really moved within the past, I'd say, 6 months, other than Blinn. No, sir, I do not believe that that has been done.
How are land prices in that general area?
They continue to increase. Sorry, I should have that number on the top of my head. I do not. Terpsters?
Yes, the Blinn property's been incorporated into the city of Waller. We have been annexed into the city of Waller.
Annexed, thank you.
And you'll see in a couple of different slides here later how those city utilities are coming out to build up that infrastructure. That's in a later part of the presentation.
I just was curious, is our property zoned? Do they have zoning in Waller? They do?
I'll defer to the experts on
Okay, I just was
zoning.
curious, so that could affect the development around there, so I just was curious.
Trustees, just a quick reminder, if you could please turn on your mics. Thank you.
Could you go back one? Just as a follow-up to Richard there, that multifamily, is that's zoned for multifamily, like apartments, condos, that type thing, or?
I don't know. I don't want to speak to that without certainty, but I know with him directly moving into the annexation of it and zoning.
What you're looking at, trustees, is the plan that Terpstra and his group has put together, the master plan, if you will, for what they would like to do with the property. Now, each of these have not been, started or any of those. I'll let Chris kind of talk a little bit about that. But this is the master plan, if you will, for Terpstra's property between 290 and our property. But none of this is on the ground yet.
Right.
Absolutely.
So to give you some background, when Blinn purchased the property, the city of Waller's process basically was after your purchase, they immediately went into a development and annexation agreement. And so I would expect as Terpstra comes in to develop that property, they will do something similar where they will execute an annexation and development agreement with the city. As part of that agreement, that will set where the city is going to extend utilities. It sets the zoning for that property and kind of a site plan component that says when we annex, this is what we anticipate to develop. So currently, while those properties are in the county, they are not slated or zoned for any specific usage right now. But as they come in, they will have to define that with the city as they get brought into the city. Thank you. This is an artist's rendition of the Waller Town Center. This is another view of it looking out towards the west, towards the city of Waller. You can see the Benford Business Park over to the right. There in the corner is where the fuel center would be, and Dyken is just south of this, southeast. Any other questions about development? So I'm going to give you an update on existing conditions. Some of this will be review of what we discussed with the original acquisition of the property. So currently, the property is located north of 290 at Binford and Waller-Tomball Road. It's in a really good location for access-wise, direct access off of 290 from Binford, and then, of course, Waller-Tomball extending kind of parallel over towards the Tomball area. We are in discussions now with TxDOT on their proposed redesign and construction of FM 2920. TxDOT has a widening schematic for 2920 that will take that roadway from a 2-lane asphalt with bar ditch section into a boulevard section with drainage and median in the middle.
Those are existing conditions.
This is, well, the section on your left is the current existing condition. The one on the right is what the proposed is, and what's shown on there is the proposed condition.
Proposed condition?
Correct.
Okay.
As we understand from the schematic, the widening will all be to the south. It's not anticipated that we'll need to dedicate any right-of-way to TxDOT off of the property. That widening should all come off the property on the south.
So if I can interrupt, Chris, so we'll have one entrance off of 2920 based on that,
Well,
or in and out anyway.
So this is what we're in discussions with.
Okay.
We got to get into some serious discussion with TxDOT on. We are going to initiate a traffic impact analysis for the project that would cover the first phase of development plus the master plan ultimate phase, because we need to We need to have discussions with them about where full access median openings are, how many access openings we need off of 2920.
One thing if we can, and I don't know what that distance is, but if that's the maximum distance we can get, we want to maximize that if we can if we need to signal an intersection.
Correct, yeah. We'll see in a later slide how the master plan impacts on this, but the full access opening they have on our east property line, we want to shift that opening and get it closer to Binford, but it'll still be plenty far for signalized access, both at Binford and at the campus ultimately. I think we will want more than one access point off of 2920.
I would think so, but.
And then also have access off of Binford in the future also, so.
And acceleration and deceleration lanes also, that would be incumbent on the college? Or
Correct.
can this text dotted factor that into what their improvements are, and what would their schedule be
So-
for that section?
So I don't have a definitive schedule. We had a meeting with the city of Waller yesterday. They mentioned that they were looking at 2027. I'm assuming that is a start date for them for 2027. The acceleration, deceleration lanes, sometimes we can get that factored in. Sometimes there's cost sharing involved with that, but it's obviously easier if they're already doing the road construction to let them go ahead and do that construction with it. And if not, there is a process by which we go through with the donation agreement, driveway access permits to go ahead and add those decel lanes. But those would typically be on part of the user.
I think that schedule is very, very critical, because we'd want to time that with our opening of our new campus to make sure that we don't want to, our opening day, we want to have.
You don't want
make
to
sure-
open a building and not be able to get to it. Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I think that schedule is very important.
Yes.
If it's 27 or when it would be.
Right.
Is there funding dedicated to that so far or not?
I have not had a specific meeting with TxDOT yet. We've reached out to them, and we're trying to get that meeting set up right now. The information I've got is from the city, and so we're definitely going to have all those discussions of when they plan to, where are they at in design, when are they planning on putting that project out to bid, and what is their timeline also, and where are they going to start? Because they may say they're going to start in 2027, but they're 10 miles down the road, and they're not going to get to you for quite a while, so.
And I guess Benford Road is jurisdiction of Waller
It is, I
Or the
believe
county.
Binford is still county road.
County, okay.
And so that one, I don't think there are any immediate plans for upgrades on Binford right now. This is a little bit of what we're considering as for access. There is an intersection on Binford currently that we think we would align another access point with. And then I think you would have a minimum of 2 access points on 2920, likely a full access and then a right-in, right-out access also.
Okay.
Looking at the overall site, we have gotten the topographic surveys complete and are starting to analyze drainage conditions and detention requirements for the property. Generally, what this slide is showing is the portion in what I'm going to call the back of the property, the north part of the property, fairly flat towards the front. You can see it starts to drain towards the road a little bit better. At one time, there were some roadways anticipated on this property, so there's some grading and things that were done for that, but none of those were ever platted or constructed. But generally, everything will flow towards 2920, and then a portion, that flag, pretty much will drain out towards Binford. Any questions on existing conditions? I guess the one other thing I want to mention, as I alluded to earlier, when you purchased the property, you also executed a development utility extension agreement with the city. We had discussions with them yesterday. We're getting them updated data based off the master plan for usage and populations and things like that. But the city will be extending water, sewer, and gas to the corner of the campus as part of this. And we'll work with them on timing of that to make sure that that happens concurrently with the development of our campus, so.
Who's the electrical provider? CenterPoint?
Yes, CenterPoint, and it's on 2920 on our side.
Okay. Can you go back to the drainage? Have we had any discussions with the drainage authority?
So it's City of Waller.
Okay.
So since we are in the city, everything will go through the City of Waller. We don't have to deal with Harris County or anything. They do follow Harris County regulations. And so detention is significant in this part of the world. And so we fall in Harris County regulations and also the Little Cypress Creek watershed, which adds a little bit additional on regulation on top of that. And then we will also have TxDOT has their own criteria. So we will be balancing all three entities' criteria for detention on this. Likely, we are anticipating, you'll see in some of the later slides of the master plan, I think, kind of the detention configuration, but we're anticipating the outfall will be in the kind of that far southeast corner. And likely we will have some sort of pump detention system for some portion of it. Some of it will free drain, some of it will have to be pumped just because of topography and elevations.
Wouldn't it be nice to blend it in with other amenities and features and maybe even have a retention feature as well with?
Correct. Yes, Canon, the design team is looking at kind of I'm going to call it a hybrid of some wet detention that is more of amenity ponds, but then also some dry detention off to the side for the larger storm events, that don't see frequent usage. And that way it's a little more distributed throughout the campus, adds some efficiency there, and also makes it to where it's not, something behind a fence off in a corner.
I know our competitor, Lone Star, at their Cyfair campus, I guess, has incorporated a lot of that, and it looks very nice.
Yeah.
One thing that we might consider is the little jutted out piece of property that's on Benford Road where we put that roadway in. I would say that particular piece of property is a very valuable piece of property for us to potentially be able to market and sell if we don't need it for the rest of our campus on the other side. So we wouldn't want to run a road right through the middle of it.
Right.
We'd want to have it somewhere that they could utilize. We obviously need a long-term, an easement and that type of thing and be able to utilize that for our campus. But, thinking about saving a good chunk of that property for potentially marketing in the future.
Yeah, the current master plan shows most of the development on the main part. We've got a roadway connection there aligned with the current intersection. But there again, depending on how that flag lays out, that certainly would be a consideration.
Could you just explain the legend for me? Most ideal, should be able to work, in bad. What I'm not sure. Does bad mean no drainage whatsoever?
Well, this graphic got stolen from another purpose, unfortunately, and that was really discussing where the ideal locations for detention would be, and the most ideal location was to put it down on the bottom of the hill towards the front. We could work with it in the middle and don't put it on the top of the hill in the back.
Okay. Makes sense.
It was very technical.
And now we'll have Doug Lowe come up with FP&C. Y'all have met Doug Lowe before. He was part of our master plan back in 2021. So I'll let him talk about the data analytics and demographics.
Thank you. Madam Chair, trustees, Madam Chancellor, I'm here to talk about the data, and the information is good. I think the board chose wisely when you selected this particular part of the state to locate a campus in. And a few slides back, or a few moments ago, you saw slides that had a lot of development potential, a lot of names on the graphics. So let's try to translate that development growth into potential students that might be coming to your campus. Let's see. There we go. This is a zip code map, and it uses darker colors to represent more population. This is in 2024 by zip code in the 18 to 34-year-old age cohort, essentially the kind of the prime student age. And I like to view it as a sort of a tidal wave of young people sort of marching up 290 toward your new campus. Now, that might be a bit presumptive, but that's a good place to start. This zip code map is growth in percentage over the coming 10 years. So previously we saw that there was this sort of built-up potential of young people living just outside or just southeast of Waller, and this is where the growth is going to occur. And to a certain degree, I'm telling you what you already know, but the data is backing up your decision. These are the numerical values for the population change. You can see in the gray on the left side of the graphic is 2020 to 2024, and then projections out for all age brackets. The top line is the total, and then the various other subsets within the ages. So total population growth projected within a 20-mile radius of the new campus, from 851,000 to well over 1 million. Focus on the center of this slide. This is a kind of a demographic market scan, but the top bars are the population growth that we just talked about, growing out to over 1 million in total population. The population age 18 to 64 is also growing significantly. That's in the middle set of horizontal bars. And equally significant is the bottom set of bars. That's the educational attainment of the population. The bottom three are more than 51% with a college degree. If you add in the bar right above it in sort of the rust color, that's another 19% with some college, which could well be certificates or some credentials out of a community college. So not only is the population growing, but it is an educated population. This looks at the school enrollment, and this is the pipeline for the most part. The middle three bars are grades 1 through 12, and this is where your students will be coming from in the coming years. So a significant part of the population is of the age where they will be coming into community college. We then drilled down and looked at high schools because the high school graduation rates are a significant driver of college enrollment. These are the high schools by size that are within a 20-mile radius but are outside of the Lone Star and Houston Community College service area. Because one of the things that we have to be careful of is not projecting based on a population that is more likely to go to a lower cost tuition college if they're inside the service area for Lone Star or Houston. So we have to back those folks out. The colleges that you're competing against for students are shown in green for Lone Star, kind of in orange to the bottom right for Houston, and then your campus locations, obviously. We also looked at your other campus locations, the Blinn enrollment. You have come out of COVID on a solid foundation. The sum line at the top is total enrollment, and then campus by campus. You can see that the 6,000 line, the next line below the total is Bryan. It's decreasing slightly, but at the same time, Rellis is increasing, so those two work sort of in tandem as a kind of a tag team of campuses. So, but generally your enrollment has been flat. Which brings us to what we think is most likely to happen for the campus at Waller. We went through several different projection scenarios. The first one that we looked at was just a trend line of your overall college enrollment. We then used the capture rate, which is the percentage of students within your service area that you are currently enrolling, and used that as a factor in moving forward. First, by the capture rate against the general population. We looked at the capture rate and increased it within the 10-mile radius, within a 20-mile radius, within a 20-minute drive time. We also looked at the high school graduation rates, and we averaged them together. So the average line is the red line. Shows that hypothetically, if you started with a campus of 1,500 students, you could easily move about 561, according to the mathematics, take well over 2,000 students within a 10-year period. The top line is the one that I have the most faith in. That's the high school graduate line. So the 561 potential student growth, I think, is conservative. I think that if you follow the high school graduation curve, you could well have more. And as you heard earlier, there are 40,000 plus housing starts. Depending on the age of the students who are moving into those houses, you could see the acceleration on the curve come quicker. You could move from 1,500 more quickly than the data are showing on this graph. So the answer is that you're going to have some significant growth coming. The last thing I'd like to talk about is, this is educational spending, and this goes back to that demographics survey graph. The big red number on the bottom right, the $500 million in educational spending. This is within a 20-mile radius. So not only do you have population growth in the age that will be coming to college, you have a population that's interested and is spending money on college education. So from a data analytics perspective, you put a campus in a right spot. I can't exactly tell you how fast you're going to grow if you start with a population of, say, 1,500, but the growth will be coming based on the data that you've seen. And you should be thinking in the back of your mind that we'll need a second building before too long. Sorry.
There have been some thoughts or some potential concerns of cannibalization of the Waller area to the Brenham area. Do you have any concerns about that?
I'm always concerned about cannibalization, like Orellis is doing to Bryan. But I think you're after a different population here. I think these numbers are based on the growth that's coming. I think the student body that you have come to Blinn for a particular reason, and you know all those reasons by heart. The only cannibalization that you will be seeing, in my opinion, is those students who are currently coming all the way up to Bryan College Station or to Brenham and are not interested in some of the other things that come along with that. Like if they're coming to Brenham and they aren't necessarily coming for the college feel, or if they're going to Bryan and not on a transfer track to A&M. So there probably some small number of students that you may lose, but I don't think in this case cannibalization will be a big factor. I think you're going to create a new campus for students that you don't currently enroll. Questions?
Doug, welcome back, good seeing you, sir.
Thank you.
Enjoyed working with you years ago. How does this new data compare with what we did 5 years ago?
It is a more robust projection than it was by several hundred students. I think at the time of the last master plan, when there was the question before the board of where might we locate a new campus, The Waller area was growing. It is now projected to grow faster because we now have the more recent census data makes the projections a little more accurate.
A couple slides ago, you showed a breakdown, the demographic, I guess, on education. That's a rather high number of educated percentages. Am I
Yes.
correct? Compared across the state?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
very, very encouraging.
Obviously, an area that values education.
Definitely.
Just a quick comment, maybe an ask, along with the capitalization discussion from Jim. I agree, I don't think it's going to do a lot, but it'd be nice to put a number by that. So would there be a way we could get like the number of students from Waller or Hempstead High School and what campus they're attending now? Just so that we have that in our pocket, because I've heard that from a lot of people as well. So, but it'd be nice to say, well, it's only 5 students or it's only 100 students, whatever that is.
One way to do that would be to plot the residence of your current students.
Yeah.
And that would help. And then if they are on a transfer track or why.
Should be easy enough to get. So.
Yes, sir. Other suggestions or comments?
Yeah, Doug, I really appreciate the comprehensive nature of your presentation because there's so many moving parts from the academic side to the vocational and training side, and even looking at our competitors like Lone Star, where literally you can graduate high school and have associates at the same time. So, again, looking at the uniqueness of each campus, where there's a great emphasis on Brenham's campus having almost a 4-year college experience with the sports and the arts, versus Aurelius campus that's a STEM style type campus. So highlighting those things, but also the graphics previously where we have Daikin, we have other projected HEB factories, automotive deals. How do we get the full bang for our buck? Not just focusing on academics, not just focusing on vocational and certificates of value. And I know that Mr. Anderson is going to speak to that in a second, but thank you for the comprehensive presentation. I really appreciate it, and upgrading it from when we did the initial master plan.
Well, and I will say it was easy because sometimes colleges don't make good choices when they buy land. They sort of enter into it without thoughtful planning. But this time you made a wise choice.
Thank you, Doug. All right, and we'll now ask Mr. Michael Korb with Canon Design to come up and present you with an update on where we are in the graphics and the master plan of our Waller campus. So, Michael.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Chancellor, members of trustees. My name is Michael Korb. I'm an architect, senior project manager with Canon Design, working with the team on the potential development of your property. You kind of stole my thunder with a little bit of your questions, so we're going to show you some answers to some of the questions that you had asked previously. So when we start the master plan, when we look at the potential of the acreage that you have, we want to start with the vision that is established with the Blinn College District Campus Master Plan, and that's the vision that we understand to be applied to your Waller campus, one that really shapes future academic leaders and allows you to become an integral member of your community in Waller. So we kind of keep that as a sort of a North Star when we're looking at options for your property. I want to start by taking a look at what would be a phase 1 of property development. We've worked closely with Doug, worked closely with Chris, Mark and his team on just options for locating a first academic building on campus. You'll see that location is shaping up, makes a lot of sense for it to be along 2920. There's a couple of reasons. One, Chris had mentioned utilities coming to the site. They're going to be coming, the city's going to bring them to the southwest corner of this red dashed area. So it makes a lot of sense from an economics perspective to locate a building there. But you'll see when I show you the full-blown master plan, it's a little bit, it's more grand. The reasoning is a little bit more grand than just locating them next to utilities, but cost is something that we consider as well. So when we're developing this phase 1, there's certain components that we need to consider. Chris had mentioned detention and retention ponds. You'll see those sort of blue at the bottom. Those are potential areas for retention ponds, so wet ponds that could be a design feature for the entry of campus. Chris had also mentioned, we're talking to TxDOT. So at the moment, we envisioned at least one main entry off of 2920. Ideally going to talk to them about more than one entry off of 2920. More than anything, it makes a lot of sense from a safety and security standpoint to have more than one entry and egress off of your campus. But so we're looking at an entry road off of 2120, siting a building kind of in the southwest corner of your campus, associated parking, all the things that we're looking at and working with the city of Waller. That first building, it's sized to be about 82,000 square feet, so 3 stories, and academic programs are classrooms, labs, a food service component, banquet hall, esports arena, associated academic offices. So that's the current thinking of what would be in the building at this point. And then I'll kind of go to the broader campus build out. So you can kind of see how that first building might fit into a series of buildings along 2920. And as Chris had mentioned, TxDOT has plans to really expand that road. It's going to be a major thoroughfare through Waller, and it really creates an incredible opportunity to create a brand and a very prominent face and entry for Blinn in Waller, specifically for this campus. So you can kind of see how that first building might be a partner of multiple buildings along 2920 to really kind of create a great front door for your Waller campus. We took a broader look at how much density you could fit on your acreage here, and it's kind of consolidated to the 75 acres of it. But we feel like, based upon the numbers that Doug is looking at, using planning metrics from your Blinn District Campus Master Plan, you could easily provide a campus of about 10,000 students on this acreage, which would equate to about 1 million square feet of building area. These buildings are kind of use agnostic at this point. This is a work in progress. Those buildings could flex between academic buildings, workforce development buildings. Those are all things that could be decided in the future. But the campus works well for a 10,000 student campus. And so we're starting to think about how you might organize that land into something that's very meaningful for students to be on. And so we're kind of looking at the concept of a ring road, so separating pedestrians and vehicles on campus. So keep the cars to the outside, keep the vehicular circulation to the perimeter, put the parking to the perimeter, but give the interior to the buildings and pedestrian walkways. There's an opportunity to create a nice water feature, if you wanted to, on the central part of the campus that could have an academic function, as well as kind of a student amenity, student wellness, just a nice thing to have in the middle of your campus that makes it a great place to be. And so it could be a nice feature to attract students to this campus in particular, beyond your competitors. So we're also kind of showing how storm detention as a full build out and retention would kind of fit out on this site. And I'll kind of wrap things up with a little bit of a circulation diagram. The heavy bold orange is the interior vehicular drives around campus. You can see we're kind of thinking there'd be more than one entry off of 2920. As Chris had mentioned, another entry exit off of Binford. And as one of the questions was asked earlier, that entry off of Binford is kind of cheated a little bit north to give that land area as much flexibility as it can for future development use. So again, we didn't want to run a road right through the middle of it and kind of cut it in half. And then finally, you'll kind of see the orange dashed lines, and those are all pedestrian walkways, bike paths, areas for campus vehicles or emergency vehicles to drive on a temporary basis, but it would not be dedicated to cars. So that's kind of just the current thinking that we have for the campus and the land use. So we thank you. We have some next steps that we can share, but before we get there, I'd like to open it up to see if there's any questions.
It's a lot. You've been at work. Thank you for so much information. Open it up to anyone.
I've got a few questions, but you go ahead. No, I'm good. Just looking at it, on the retention features, it could be a beautiful entrance, beautiful grand entrance. With the retention, I don't know how the engineering works, but I just really want to keep in mind the engineering for that so that we have a beautiful, clear, clean pond. Probably will take water features to keep water moving or pumps. I don't know how all this works. But that type of thing, that will be a little extra maintenance. I just want to make sure that the cost is something that we want to continually upkeep. Another thought here is when I look at the parking lot behind the building, and then I look at the next page, I want to make sure we don't have a safety issue there. In other words, the quickest path is a straight line. So would a student exit the back of Building A, walk across the parking lot to the consortium of buildings there? And so maybe the thought might be, do we want to change the look of that building or the configuration of that parking, make that a beautiful outdoor space? We just received our landscape award today. So a beautiful space that could collect students for whatever reason. As well as the area around, a little park area around the water feature. So when I think of Blinn, I think of quality. When I think of the students that come here, we do operate off of tuition and fees, and we want to make sure that they feel that value when they step on the campus. Another thought is, I don't know how the water is treated in that retention pond. If it's water from the city or if it's the flow of water. I know Texas A&M has made a big use of, they call them bioswales.
Mm-hmm.
And a bioswale can actually reduce your big detention area, and you can put more clean filtration instead of using sewer grates or sewer collection. You can do your swales and have natural vegetation in there, as well as in the parking lots. Your medians could be, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe create some of those features of beauty in those parking lots. Again, I don't know what the maintenance or the extra cost is, but this first area would be, a place to maybe incorporate those or find out where we could incorporate those. So those are just a few of my thoughts.
No, I think those are excellent points. And again, this is a work in progress. So the master plan is intended to sort of be that 30,000-foot perspective of development. It's a framework more than anything. The phase one, however, will become real and granular. And so the comments you make are very well taken. And if you kind of can see back and forth between the full campus build out and the phase one, that back parking lot, there's a certain parking count that we need to accommodate with phase one. But as we continue to develop that project, thinking about how students get from the building to the parking lot day one, but ultimately through the parking lot to access that future building will be an important concept. And we could easily think about things like pedestrian boulevards that can go through the parking lot that have a different kind of pavement material. We can use landscaping to reinforce that as a pedestrian pathway. We've done that on a number of different campuses. And we're very mindful about really minimizing the mixing between vehicles and students in particular. So great comments and all things that we're going to take back. Actually, that's the next step, is to take your comments and start to incorporate them both on the master plan and the phase one project.
Thank you.
I just have a thought or a suggestion, in your phase one here. This is just to me. We don't know if you know, we're going to build this first building. It could be 5 years. I don't know how long it's going to take before we need to build the second building. Would there be any thought of, I understand that's where our utilities are coming in right there, would be less expensive, but maybe building B as our initial building, just to balance kind of that front area, and then have green space on both sides, and kind of like we did at Relish, where you've got green space, that's where the next building goes. It, you know, to me, coming in on 2920 with that circular drive, if that's the way we set it up, that first building being kind of in the center would be more aesthetic.
Great point. That's certainly something we can look at.
I have a few. Yeah, thank you. This is a commuter campus, I
Yes.
presume?
Yes.
And that's how it's being designed and laid
Yes.
out?
Yes.
As a commuter campus. What type of student service amenities do you think, or in the past, have you seen incorporated in commuter campuses, i.e. food service, and what else from a student service perspective would you see incorporated into this campus?
So things like disability services, which is a component that's currently planned in this building, disability services, veteran services, tutoring, all of your traditional student support service functions we typically see, we can envision here. Whether it's day one or not is, you know, it's open for question, but those are all kind of amenities that we see to support students. And food service, you had mentioned that, that is another one that's being proposed for the current Phase 1 building as well. We know there's limited food options in the area, and so at least with Phase 1, you know, we want to try to keep students on campus as long as possible, and food is a great way to do that.
You know, we've done something similar at our Bryan campus when we built that 20 years ago. And I don't know if it's been a positive or negative, but we've moved for food service throughout several buildings as that campus developed. And so I don't know if your master plan will show what that student services building might be for an ultimate design and build out, or what our phasing would be to move that from site to site as we continue to develop.
Yeah, again,
Have you thought through that, I guess, is my point.
those are things that we are thinking about. Again, the buildings that you see here are kind of use agnostic at the moment, but there is definitely a vision that one of these is probably going to be a student center type building in the future.
Right.
One could easily be a library
Right.
and a dedicated student support services building on campus. One maybe even be, or a portion of one maybe is a more robust dining service offering. So there's a lot of flexibility in this campus master plan, and we're going to continue to work on what those uses can be for your consideration and approval at a later date.
You know, I don't know where we're at from an academic and a workforce standpoint, but I know that we want to capitalize on student enrollment. And what of those two might attract the most students. I'm not sure how you've been advised on, this is a workforce building, if it's an academic building, a combination of the two, but we certainly want to be mindful of that as we try to build this for the student population.
Absolutely.
The last thing I have is the construction cost climate. I know this is probably 2 years away before you bid this out, but is it, you know, what's it look like today?
It's, there's some volatility in it. And I think there's two big things that's kind of driving volatility. I'll use that with some caution. I don't want to scare anybody, but, you know, there's talks of tariffs. And to be honest with you, you know, we're advising that some kind of contingency to recognize the fact that tariffs may increase prices is something, it's a wise thing to think about. It could go away, you know, in a month. It could, you know, so there's, with any uncertainty, there's just a due diligence on how you plan around that stuff. So one thing is an uncertainty around tariffs. Inflation in general has kind of leveled off. A couple of years ago, inflation, we were planning projects that had 6-7% inflation factors in them. It's getting kind of back to normal. It's like 4%. It's not, so we don't see a blip coming with inflation. The other thing to consider is labor costs, to be honest with you. So skilled labor is starting to get more expensive, in large part because the Houston regional area has a lot of construction going on. And so any proposed project is competing with other projects that are coming online. The great thing about your project is it's brand new, it's on a brand new campus, it's a highly attractive project for trades to work on, for subcontractors to want to work on. So I think your project's going to be competitive in terms of when it goes to bid out, so to speak, to the subcontracting market.
Thank you.
So, you know, there's things to consider, but, you know, nothing ultra scary.
Thank you.
One more thought. On that, we talked about the right-of-way. If that is done in 2027, when we're ready to get started, we're probably going to need to do a nice entrance, heavy duty for deliveries for students, that type of thing off of Benford. So that would, I would say, a nice, beautiful entrance off of that side road. That was just my thought.
Okay, so our next steps, so we're going to take this feedback and incorporate it into the master plan. Again, it's evolving, so we're going to continue to work on the master plan. And then we're also going to continue to move forward with that phase 1 academic building and, you know, continue to get it designed and work with our consultants, Mark's team, and the construction manager. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corr.
Thank you.
Next section. So that concludes our master plan update. I'll turn it back over to Leighton for the next steps.
Thank you, Mark. So trustees, the next steps that we're going to talk about is with our career and technical education that's currently ongoing at the Waller area. Jay and his group are going to talk about all the wonderful things they're doing there, and then we'll continue just the conversation there. So Jay, toss it to you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Schubert. Good afternoon, Chair, trustees, Chancellor Hensley. There's a few things that we heard just a little bit ago. One was capture rate. Another point was 40,000 houses being built. And I think some of the data that we're going to see here is indicating that we're headed in the right direction with the ideas and the concepts for career and technical education in the Waller area. To begin with, we are designing purposeful pathways with planning and implementation leading to the credentials of value. The credentials of value is a key piece to the career and technical education aspects of what continues to be built in the Waller area. We have the ICLCs, which are the institutional credentials leading to licensures and certifications. We have the OSAs, Occupational Skills Awards, certificate level 1s, certificate level 2s. We also have the Associate of Applied Science degrees, and then we have employability skill. The employability skills are a very important part of the career and technical education as we continue to train incumbent workers and build a talent pipeline for organizations that are going to be hiring new individuals as they move into their growth areas. We have color-coded this just for ease of interpretation. The highlighted in blue indicates that it leads to one of these aspects of credentials of value or employability skills. As you're well aware, the credentials of value is significant in our funding formula, and the employability skills helps with the economic growth of the organizations within the Blinn College Service District. This is a really interesting snapshot and a very exciting snapshot. This was data that was presented at the Waller Career and Technical Education ISD Advisory Committee meeting about 2 weeks ago. You'll see in 21-22, 75% of Waller High School students were enrolled in a CTE course. 22-23, 80% enrolled in a Waller High School CTE course. 23-24, 87% of Waller High School students enrolled in a CTE course. Ultimately, 43% of the 2024 class earned at least one credential of value. So when we look at pathways and the previous statement of our capture rate, this is really exciting information. From the health sciences perspective, we have exploring dual credit and open discussions right now to align Blinn College District with the Waller ISD in medical terminology, the pathophysiology, emergency medical technician basic, certified nursing assistant, the CNA, fire safety, fire science. An agreement with the Waller ISD is fully executed, which allows our associate degree nurses to complete school nurse clinical rotations right there at the school district facility. And then the Dean of Health Sciences actively participates in local economic development and ISD career technical education meetings to align our current program offerings with the CTE program offerings within the Waller High School ISD. So these are some, again, very exciting opportunities. The discussions continue in terms of aligning for dual credit and these pathways from the individuals that are tracking at the high school level into career and technical education pathways. Again, very purposeful and very meaningful planning from the Waller ISD over to Blinn College, pipeline to enrollment, completion, credentials of value, and really connecting the dots on this lifelong learning. Individuals can begin these careers as CTE students in the Waller High School, transfer into Blinn College, and then through the sequence of articulations and very purposeful planning, continue on that cycle of lifelong learning through advanced credentials, ultimately increasing employability opportunities as well. From the engineering, computer technology, and innovation, we have the mechatronics, which is fully functional, and that's at the Schultz Junior High at this time. You've heard about that. The mechatronics, we've heard lots about mechatronics in the Waller area, advanced manufacturing, the mechatronics, and the need for manufacturing fundamentals in that area with the growth that's happening with their manufacturing. We have outreach to the Waller area manufacturers, which is ongoing, and we send promotional emails. We have follow-up engagement underway to build industry connections. And Blinn College is at the table with economic development discussions and engaged in discussions with local industries as well. We have Blinn representatives delivered presentations to the Waller Economic Development Corporation about what Blinn College is doing and can do with mechatronics and other advanced manufacturing, along with those employability skills. Some of the employability skills we've talked about relate to industrial safety, statistical process control, programmable logic controllers, and a number of other very high-tech kinds of high employability skill sets that the Waller area is looking for. There was more than 50 attendees in the last Economic Development Corporation. I think Dean Hibbs, who is here, Dean Hibbs here? Yep, Dean Hibbs is here. Dean Hibbs actually presented at the Economic Development Corporation. Over 50 attendees were present and expressed interest in learning more about the mechatronics and other advanced manufacturing principles that Blinn College can partner along with the business and industries. There's mechatronics brochures and degree maps, which are now available. Now, that connection between brochures and degree maps, it shows that Blinn College is very purposeful and meaningful in terms of our plans, what we're currently doing, and future implementation of additional career and technical education. Engineering, computer technology, and innovation. Another example, again highlighted in blue, at some point it leads to our ICLCs, the OSAs, the Cert 1s, the Cert 2s, employability skills. So these are high-wage, high-demand skill sets that are needed in the Waller area. Blinn College is on standby to continue to deliver as we are currently delivering through SDF, Skills Development Fund grants, as well as you'll see dual credit has started, and we've got some completers already, and you'll see other exciting opportunities that Blinn College is delivering. So as an example, we talked about some high-tech employability skills. We're looking at operations and sequencing machinery for start and stops and safety interlocks for process operations, motor controls using overload protection to make sure that the machinery stays safe and the operators understand the safety of those machines, the integration of limit switches, proximity switches. We have a variety of solenoid, which are start, stops, and relays for automation. When we talk about this automation and advanced manufacturing, these are state-of-the-art technologies that Blinn College is either being sought out to deliver or currently delivering. Troubleshooting machine shutdowns. One of the most expensive aspects of manufacturing is downtime. And when operators understand how to troubleshoot and have machinery up and running in a more efficient, more effective way, that adds money to the bottom line for the industry. And those are additional skill sets that are being sought for us to deliver. Introduction of PLCs, again, that's programmable logic controllers. That's the conversational language that manufacturing has between the components that are running the operations. It's the interface of the operator, the machinery, and the conversational language to keep our processes in control to make sure that we're building quality products on time. Attendees through TexTube, which is another organization in the Waller area. It would be delivered to 5 maintenance crew members for hydraulics and then 5 maintenance crew members for electrical relay controls. We are seeing a very strong increase in interest in the maintenance aspect of manufacturing.
Jay?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us who TexTube is?
They are a steel pipe provider, one of the largest, if not the largest, in North America.
So how did that relationship come about?
Through the economic development presentation that Dean
Okay.
did. Thank you. Graphic design. Dean Vavra's area has a dual credit alignment in place, ARTC 1302, which is the digital imaging class. Just had 10 completers, and they are on the dual credit pathway into graphic design. So when they complete the Waller ISD experience, through attraction and recruitment to Blinn College, they already have college credits earned for that Associate of Applied Science degree. So there's an example of a dual credit that is in place, and we're looking at, in fact, there's additional dual credit proposals going to their board this summer, and you'll see that in one of these slides as well. Oops. In fact, on this slide, you'll see also highlighted in blue that ARTC also leads to credentials of value for the OSA as well as the AAS. So they're again leveraging that opportunity for credentials of value. Purposeful planning, implementation, credentials of value, and looking at dual credit alignment for pathways into Blinn College. This is another really exciting slide from my viewpoint. I'm thinking about the strong partnership that we have with the ISD. We've put $120,000 of heating, ventilation, air conditioning equipment into the Waller ISD. They are leveraging that equipment to create that pipeline of interest in heating, ventilation, air conditioning students. And in return, they allow us to use the welding equipment. They have state-of-the-art welding facilities. So we're able to create a strong pipeline for both of those two trades. That 40,000 houses that was mentioned that's being built just in the very near future, Blinn College wants to provide that pipeline of talent acquisition to these individuals that are going to be building those homes. The heating, ventilation, air conditioning technicians, the welders, the electricians, pipe fitters, and apprenticeships. So we are actively engaged and continue to be actively engaged.
Jay?
Yes.
Question for you. Earlier, we had talked about at some other meetings, there's a little stigma with having some of our courses at the high school versus moving them to Blinn College. Do you, with these welding courses, do you see any issue with that? Will we retain those at that Waller facility, or will we need to lease another facility, or how soon might we need a workforce area? Just any thoughts about that?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Kettler. In fact, we're going to see some numbers that relate to the welding student pipeline. That's going to give us, we don't have a crystal ball, but that's going to give us an idea of how to prepare for capacities and how to best utilize the partnership that we have with the welding. They have, I believe it's 30-plus welding booths, state-of-the-art welding booths, and we do have that partnership, the memo of understanding in place and fully executed, and we are able to teach classes at the high school in the evenings. So once their board approves dual credit for both the HVAC and the welding, we are positioned for that. I think you're going to be impressed with the numbers that you see that are in the welding pipeline, and we'll be able to respond through their facility, which is nice because they've already started to learn in their facility. So from a safety sense, the students will feel and be able to act more safely as they're beginning to build those, deliver those welds and complete those welds. So they'll essentially go from their high school experience learning welding into a college credit experience learning welding in the same environment once that the MOU is in place, but once the articulation is signed that the board moves forward with it. And I think those numbers are coming up for both HVAC and welding, both trades. Did that answer your question, Trustee Kettler?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, emphasizing no cost in this partnership. So this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to share that technical equipment and be able to deliver these kinds of CTE courses. Yes, sir.
If I may,
Yes.
that sounds great, and I love everything we're hearing, but that might be unique to a Waller ISD student, correct? And we're going to be trying to recruit from those other 40,000 houses that may not be going to that particular school. I assume we'd incorporate that then into our building, whatever welding needs that we would have.
Thank you for the question, Trustee O'Malley. Yes, in fact, the MOU will open up the doors to the public, so students would be able to learn. It's not exclusive to Waller ISD students. It is a opportunity that the doors are open for public classes through Blinn College District in the evenings. Yes, sir. Thank you.
But I'm going to follow up on both. I think the question is, what about putting those on our campus and reaching out to other students all day long? Is that a possibility?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Kraus, and absolutely that's a possibility, and I think that's where when we see these numbers, that's going to help us understand our capacities and throughput and be able to look at building cohorts that would be able to complete those welding classes in relation to faculty-student ratio based on safety for the welding classes. Did that answer your question, Trustee Crowson?
Yeah, I just think we need to plan on, you've mentioned mechatronics, a welding lab, HVAC lab. I mean, those are the things I'd like to see on this campus, not a academic building, but those things, because that seems like what the need is. So.
Thank you, Trustee Crowson. In fact, I think when I hand off to Vice Chancellor Schubert, he's got a summary of slides for closure directed at that point. Yes, sir.
I do have a question. It sounds like we've got a really good relationship building with Waller and their CTE program, a lot of communication apparently going there. And this is a little off subject, but do we have a similar relationship with Brenham and their CTE programs to bring the Brenham kids in?
I think that there's ongoing communication with the Brenham ISD and CTE. We are always looking to further engage in the Brenham ISD CTE. Welding was one of the programs that was I'll call it exemplary programs in terms of partnership. So there's always opportunity for continued conversations. I think that the relationship for that discussion is good, and there's always opportunity for growth.
If I may add another question. The Waller ISD setup is awesome. I don't know who else has seen it in this room, but it is the most impressive thing I've ever seen in this regard. Do you know if, and I'm glad we have those partnerships and I want to continue those. Obviously, we need to attract the public as well into our building. But do we know if their new high school is going to have that same footprint of vocational opportunities in their new high school? Do we know that yet?
Trustee O'Malley, I really don't know what their new footprint is going to resemble at this point.
They have not designed their next high school at this point, so I'm not sure what's going to be
I just was
that
curious.
high school.
We certainly want any agreements to be across their district and not just unique to that one school.
Well, trustees, just a follow-up, we will have a discussion at the end of this about some expansion opportunities that we're looking at and get some guidance on some expansion opportunities.
And Trustee O'Malley, I'm thinking that with that 87% taking a CTE course, that's on center of their radar as well.
Just for the record, I'd like to make a note. Chair Binky had to leave at 1:52 p.m. to step out, and she, in her absence, our Vice Chair, Trustee Wells, is chairing the meeting. She is now back at 1:56 p.m. And then the second thing I just wanted to mention is that we are going to culminate this discussion today into some future workforce opportunities to discuss with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Schubert. So in August 2024, Blinn met with the Waller High School current tech ed director to provide crosswalk. Trustee Colcourse, I think this addresses your question a little bit more in depth also, to provide that crosswalk for the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, welding, dual credit pathways. Waller ISD plans to present these dual credit programs for internal review this summer with anticipated board approval for October 25. If approved, and a contingent upon, and this is a key piece, and contingent upon a credentialed faculty, they will have to go through the vetting process for SAC-COC so they can teach the college level courses. The HVAC pathway would be up to 18 credits with an OSA. Again, a wonderful opportunity for credential of value. And then the welding pathway, let me back up just a little bit. 48 students, Trustee Kettler, currently enrolled in the HVAC. And you'll see a wonderful number of 342 students in welding. Back to your point, Trustee Krause, and talking about the facilities and being able to accommodate welding. And there again, that's another credential of value as an OSA. So purposeful, meaningful, planned pathways and implementation for career and technical education in the Waller ISD with that alignment for partnership and lifelong learning from essentially dual credit all the way through AAS, and I like to think of it as baccalaureate and beyond, for those AAS degrees that are not designed for transfer, but are welcomed by partner institutions to go into a BS, Bachelor of Science. Or no, I'm sorry, BAAS, Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences. Let's see here, we have Waller ISD Current Technical Education, Spring 24, our Perkins coordinator, who is our federal Perkins dollar coordinator for the Perkins grant, attended the ISD Advisory Committee, and 2025, we've had myself, Dean Rich, Dean Hibbs, Dean Trubenstein, a number of individuals. Our Director of Corporate College have attended the ISD, the ISD Technical Education Advisory Committee. Okay, we have, in spring 25, we just completed CNBT 1210, which is the basics of construction safety. So that did take place. Planning for fall 25, welding 1428, introduction to shielded metal arc welding. We have spring 26, 1430 with gas metal arc, and then summer of 26. So we're forecasting out some of these classes that relate to that pipeline of 300 plus individuals. Applied technology workforce and economic development, non-credit HVAC leading to an ICLC, that's the institutional credential leading to licensure and certification. Blinn will be offering the non-credit HVAC training program designed to prepare students for entry-level positions in the field. We have the NCCER Core. NCCER is the National Center for Construction Education Research, internationally recognized credentials. We also have that for HVAC Level 1 certification, OSHA, Occupational Safety Health Administration, 10-hour certification, and then the EPA, which is Environmental Protection, Section 608 for handling of refrigerants as it bumps back to HVAC. And we're creating the schedule for Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 9:30, and those courses that would be offered would be the CNBT 1010, Basic Construction Safety, HART 1041, Residential Air, and HART 1056, EPA Recovery. Again, coursework that's aligning with the needs of the area, the tremendous amount of home growth with 40,000 homes being built as reported earlier, and those purposeful pathways into credentials of value. Daikin, as Trustee Krausen mentioned, a $556,000 grant through Skills Development Fund, 43 new trained employees and 212 incumbents trained with those high skill technical areas in the mechatronics. Also the apprenticeship program, and those apprenticeships would be registered through the Department of Labor. So they are accredited DOL, Department of Labor apprenticeships.
So these were Daikin employees that we trained for them?
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to my previous question. Where does that money come in or go from right here?
This is a grant, and so it would be restricted funds.
Okay.
So it would not be part of that budget that you approved it, or that we submitted today. If there was a cost allocation or a cost overhead that we could pick up, that would go into unrestricted funds. So, for example, sometimes grants will pay you 80%.
Yeah, so my question is, what do we get out of this? What are we getting out of this?
We get the, we get points and, with the state, if we awarding certificates and that kind of thing.
Okay, so there is some
Right. It would,
CE type courses coming out of this?
Correct, and I would defer to.
Okay, so where are they counted in our enrollment?
They would then become part of our state appropriation.
I know, but when we do an enrollment report, where are these 43 students?
Maybe I can help with this. This is non-credit training.
Right, but he just said
So-
we did get,
Yeah, non-credit, but non-credit training can lead to credentials of value, which is why Jay has Mechatronics Apprenticeship Program here. The way we design these SDF grants are ways that when they receive that training, it is designed so they're receiving an ICLC or an OSA or whatever the case may be in that particular circumstance. These trainings are designed to lead to those credentials of value. The vast majority of this money goes to the training and the equipment needed to train those employees. What Blinn gets off of that is the admin part of the grant, and as Dr. Burton said, that goes into our revenue. But the goal of this is lots of things. One is training that workforce and building those relationships so that when next time Daikin needs something, they come to us to do that training. That's a community involvement, community investment. Second of all, we get those items that are leading to the ICLCs and OSAs through state funding. And third, we continue to build that pathway of establishing Blinn as a provider in the area. And on top of that, we get the admin portion of that grant. So these individuals here are non-credit students that do lead to state credentials of value funding.
As a spinoff to that, this particular one is highlighted because of the employability skills and that recognized credential as a Department of Labor apprenticeship. Where credit-free can be built for ICLC, that is aligned. So as Vice Chancellor Schubert mentioned, we are always looking for opportunities to align for an ICLC. But again, the ICLC has to be a credential that an individual would sit for once they leave the organization, and they engage in sitting for that credential. So in this particular case, the apprenticeship, that's an awarded after completion of their what's called RTI, Required Training and Instruction, 576 hours. Along with their on-job training, OJT. So this particular one is highlighted because of that first slide showing that it aligns with a employability skill and a recognized credential.
So
I have another question. Rebecca, do you have something?
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
did have something you and I talked a little bit about, and you said bring it up now. So, is it more beneficial to train them on site? Or I guess that was what I was wondering with the 556,000, is that used for the staff that helps train? I mean, because I could see where it would be very beneficial to be on site doing the training that they're going to need. But then to Dennis's question, yes, do we get some sort of a credit? Because then eventually they get placed in the job, is what I guess I'm kind of wondering.
We have Dean Rich in the audience also, and I can invite him to speak as well. The answer, I think, is to your first part, do we get equipment? We can purchase equipment that becomes Blinn asset that can be used for future skills development fund training at other organizations. As Vice Chancellor Schubert mentioned, we do have an administrative recovery, so there's some funding that is a direct result that goes into Dr. Burton's accounting books. We also have the instructors who would they're paid for their time. So there's a yes to every one of those. Yes, instructors get paid. Yes, we get equipment. And yes, there is some funding that goes into our accounting.
Because I'm wondering about the initial overhead. I know Dennis was talking about a building on our campus, but I'm wondering right now, it sounds like we have some pretty good relationships with people that have equipment and buildings, so that's kind of what my question is, too.
At some point, a building would be absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, it would. And to your question, is it of benefit to train at their facility? At sometimes, yes, because industry likes to have their folks train on their components in their facility and not be called away from their facility in case they get called out of a training or something of that effect. A line goes down and a maintenance technician gets called. They have to leave the training for a half hour to go and do some troubleshooting to help get that line back up. So that's one of the benefits to having the training delivered right there on site. Now, there's another side to that where sometimes industry likes to have their folks sent off-site to be able to learn in an environment where they won't be called away. Again, they can really focus on that training. So would a facility at some time be something that would be of benefit? Yes,
Definitely.
it would, yes.
And Mr. Anderson, not to jump the gun in terms of opportunities, that's why I want to hear out your full presentation, is that when we went through COVID and we experienced a hybrid deal where the world shut down, everybody can't come outside, so you had to go to school online. So for 100 years, you didn't think you could go to school unless you were in a classroom. Now we find technology, we can do that. But then as we're able to come back outside again, there's still students who want to go online, but there's still people who want to go back to the classroom. So as an envisioning piece, if DOTCAN wants to have a training program and they're going to pay for equipment and everything and give a grant, do we give the customers what they want, or do we force them to drive 30 minutes to come to a building? I don't think it has to be either or. Then you may get to a point as you continue to put these stakes in the ground in Walla and build these partnerships where they say, we'll give you $30 million to build a DOTCAN deal on your Walla campus. So I think that as we continue to do these investments, eventually in partnerships, it may turn into a return on investment where it won't be either or. We can still have classes at the Walla ISD, we can still have classes site-specific, but then ultimately, instead of us having to take out of our budget to build buildings, we have a reputation where Tesla, or HEB, or whoever says, we want to invest that into the Walla property. So I just wanted to hear out your full presentation before we start looking at those opportunities, but I thought this was a good time to potentially share that envisioning type stuff.
Thank you, Trustee Wells. In fact, I think with Vice Chancellor Schubert's summary, there's going to be a touch point on that.
I have one other question. Does the board approve these grants when we receive them? Is that approved by the board?
No. These come from the Texas Workforce Commission. One of the things I also want to just mention, very specific about this.
Really?
These what we've discovered in all of these trainings, it's very efficient to provide it at the employer's location. And one of the reasons that Jay mentioned was doesn't work time, all those sort of things, leaving. But what we've discovered is each of these companies like their own type of equipment. Think of it as a baseball player who likes their very specific bat, their very specific cleats. All of these companies use different types of equipment. It might do the same thing, but it's a different brand or a different type. And so we would never be able to buy every single type of equipment that each particular company uses. They already have it on site. So that's why it's very efficient to go to them and do that, because and this particular one, we discovered they use a very particular type of equipment for the job here, and that is what that training was done on. And we would never be able to buy the equipment that every single manufacturing company uses. It just wouldn't be possible from a financial standpoint. So here is great. We get to train them on their equipment. We can buy new equipment that ultimately becomes Blinn equipment under the grants. And also, it's a community service for this group to continue to develop that workforce. When I talk to the Workforce Commission and mention I'm from Blinn, they always say, you guys do so much SDF work. You guys do so much grants and all over the place. You're all over the place. So we're known as a state leader in this type of training, and we're just expanding that in the Waller area.
So Jay, what's been the feedback on these 42 newly trained employees from Daikin? Were they satisfied?
In fact, I'm going to hand that question off to Dean Rich. He's right here. Dean Rich.
To answer your question, I'm not sure I have that answer today, but I can get you that answer. We have given some surveys to our partners to ask them for feedback on how we're performing. So to date, I believe we're in good standing, but I can get you specific feedback from Daikin.
Thank you, Dean Rich. Any other? Okay. Waller Trades Coalition, January 25, local fabricator initiated discussions to form a Waller Trades Coalition. And this training would serve as a foundational step before participants advance into company or industry-specific programs. This is ongoing conversation. Again, Blinn College is at the table on this coalition. EDC networking breakfast. Here's a list of individuals who have been in attendance, actively engaged in discussions and planning. Myself, our Perkins coordinator, our corporate college director, Dean of Applied Technology, Dean of Health Sciences, and Executive Dean of the Waller Campus, and Dean of Engineering, Computer Technology, and Innovation. We're there to entertain questions, talk about programming, talk about credentials of value, and continue the planning. And thank you for supporting Blinn College's career and technical education programs, and I stand for any other questions.
I do have one.
Yes.
It's about the Waller campus and the 40 bays for welding, and we have 300 and something students already. Is that about to outgrow the amount of space?
I'm sorry, Trustee Ehler, what was the question again?
Well, it sounded like there are 40 bays for welding, is that right? And there's 300 and something students. Maybe it wasn't welding, but it sounds like we have a lot of welding students already. If it's at that campus, are we already about to run out of space for people to actually physically take the class?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Ehler. That is the ISD numbers. Those are the students there in their pipeline.
Because we haven't opened it up.
Correct. That is their throughput. Those are the 300-plus students that we want to attract into our Blinn College welding program.
Okay.
And at that time, as I mentioned to Trustee Kettler, that's when we really need to explore our capacities and our throughput and look at what we can do to safely accommodate that with the cohort size that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation. It's very encouraging, especially with all of the work with Waller ISD and the EDC. I see a lot of positives there. Thank you for your work.
Thank you for your time today.
All right, trustees, what a great presentation. It really is good to see all this together and show what's happening both off-site and on-site. I think this demonstrates just how we've really jumped in headfirst into the CTE side of Waller. The opportunities for Daikin have been just incredible, but that has grown out of the relationships that we've developed with the Waller EDC. Those relationships were developed very early on. A particular board member, before he was a board member, was very instrumental in developing those relationships, and that has continued. And as we've proven ourselves that we can train Daikin, that we can train TexTube, that we can train all those things, it continues to open doors. Jay briefly mentioned the Waller Trades Coalition. That is a serious development that's going on that will be training hundreds of employees at the site of those locations. So as that door opens, and we are proving that we can do it, the opportunities are endless in this area, not just with advanced manufacturing, but all the trades. It's just really incredible. So, trustees, you've heard what we're doing, you've heard where we want to go, but as always, we don't really rest on our heels. We've already looked at a couple of different ways that we can have some expansions. And I just want to remind everyone that all the great things that you're hearing, our current offerings, besides at the employer location, are out of Waller ISD facilities, and we're very happy to have those locations. It's been a great first step into this area, both at the Schultz Junior High, which is where we have advanced manufacturing, mechatronics, and also at the ISD, the high school, where the welding and the traditional workforce programs occur. But because we're on an ISD campus, we are limited, and the hours that we can provide those courses are mostly evenings and weekends. But also, we're limited in the programs that we can offer. There's only so many spaces, so many things can happen. But with a dedicated facility, we could expand not only the programs we offer, but also the available times to hold those courses. And looking at this, we've looked at, okay, if we had a dedicated facility, what could we do? What else could we do beyond what we're doing now? And after Vice Chancellor Anderson and his group and lots of different people have looked at it, we've definitely targeted expanded mechatronics advanced manufacturing. There's a need for that. That's probably the #1 need right now in workforce in that area. But we can also expand additional programming for the emergency medical technician, the phlebotomy, certified medical assistant, HVAC, carpentry, construction management, all of those things. If we had a dedicated facility, we could increase our offerings in the area. And looking at what we would need to do that, we're looking at approximately a 17,000 square foot space. A little drawing on the side, just a little schematic is what that may or may not look like. Approximately 70 parking spaces. It would have 3 lecture classrooms for up to 30 students. You'd have a computer learning lab, a medical learning lab, of course the mechatronics advanced manufacturing lab, the proving grounds, and then faculty and staff offices. If we had a space like that, I'm going to go back one slide. This is the items that we could offer, not only expanded mechatronics, but the new programs that I talked about previously. In talking with our Oldham Goodwin, our real estate experts, that roughly 17,000 square foot lease space, we would of course do build-to-suit with the landlord. It would consolidate most of our workforce offerings into one Waller area facility. It would not consolidate all of them, because there would be an enormous building to consolidate 40 welding labs and all those sort of things. So this would consolidate most of our workforce offerings. We would no longer be offering any workforce or manufacturing out of the Schultz Junior High. That would all move over to the lease, to potential lease space. We would continue some at the high school for now, with expansion opportunities in the future to add those in. The current market rate for rental rate is $18 to $20 per square foot. That does not include your CAM and those sort of fees that are tacked onto that. So your annual rental rate of a 17,000 square foot space is roughly $306,000 to $340,000. From a timeline perspective, we can go ahead, and that does not include your CAM and all those sort of things. That's just the rental rate. From the timeline perspective, we'd be able to offer those non-credit courses starting in the fall. They would be fall starts. And then for the 4-credit courses, we would be offering that. Most of those 4-credit courses outside of particular items have to be approved by SACS approval, so that has to go through the SACS approval process. And if we were to move forward on that, we would target the December SACS board meeting for those approvals. So that could probably start in the spring of 2020. That'd actually be spring of 2027. I'm sorry, that's a typo on my part. 4-credit courses, spring of 2027. Expansion in also would be the number of programs and the times offered, and of course, all of this leads to expanded opportunities to earn the credentials of value. All of this is what that leads to. And so trustees, as we've walked through this and you've seen the great work, we do want to get some guidance from y'all on if this is something you'd like us to pursue. Would you like us to continue to pursue looking at an expanded space, looking at a space to house a lot of these workforce areas, a lot of workforce programs? We've been looking in the area. We would love to get your guidance on if that's something you'd like us to pursue. And roughly, these are the rough costs. Obviously, we have to get you a final number on CAM and all those sort of things. But is this something we're interested in pursuing?
I guess, Leighton, a thought that comes to my mind is, we've got the academic building plan. Is there any of this that can go in there? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or do you simply need a dedicated facility? I'm sure you've thought about all that, but that would be my first thought.
We would need a dedicated space for workforce. The building that we're looking at for the Phase 1 building, at that 82,000 square feet, that's a pretty full building already with your classrooms and all the things you need to offer an associate's degree at that location. It would be beneficial to have an additional space, not part of that building, but additional space so you could do both of those.
Two quick questions. One, does HCC, and Lone Star offer this type of vocational capacity at their DOs?
Yes. HEC and Lone Star is offering very similar workforce programs in their different campuses as well.
Okay, and then the other question would be, is with Olin Goodwin and all the potential construction growth, is there a large enough labor pool currently to be able to respond to the demand for all these skilled technical needs? Or is that one of the main reasons why this is so critical?
From that perspective, you mean from us hiring individuals to teach these courses, or the need for these?
The need for it, and the reason why I'm asking is that if you go to Baylor Scott and White, any healthcare deal in this region, more than likely the person caring for you is going to say, I was trained at Blinn College. So how amazing would it be with all this potential growth? If you're talking to HVAC people, you're talking to welding people, you're talking to construction people, and they say, man, where'd you get your training from? They say, I got my training at Blinn College. That only further strengthens our brand and our argument to be able to say, this is why we need to have a hybrid blend of academics as well as vocational.
Yes, a great question, Trustee Wells. So in the backdrop of all these credentials of value, they are designed by the state based on the regional demand. So to be a credential of value, you have to pass two tests. One, and I'm oversimplifying this, there's a statewide targeted occupations list. If you're on that list, you are a credential of value, and that ranks the highest demand for those occupations. You also have a regional development, statewide, a regional occupations target list, and so that's where the regional comes in. If you're on that regional list, you're also a credential of value. Everything that you've seen us talk about today is on our regional list. That's why that's driven as a credential value, because there's a need for that both at the statewide level and the regional level, and that's what drives all these programs. So they don't even get on this list unless there's a demand for it.
Leighton, I think that, we certainly should be very interested in this. My question would be, is the build-to-suit 5-year lease? Is that kind of what that person that looking at that is anticipating? And, I mean, can we at least cover, do we think that we can cover the lease cost with potential, kids that we're training?
It's at least a 5-year lease. Some of these are going out to 10-year for these items. And so one of the things we're looking at is where are the locations, what's available, what's out there, what's the rental rate, and really comparing that cost-benefit analysis. What is it that we think we can generate off of this? I think the demand is there. I think the demand is there.
Trustees, if I might, Leighton, would you please go back to the slide that had the timing? There's a typo on one of the bullets.
1 second, let me go the right direction. There we
That
go.
one. All right, trustees, I'm going to try to summarize. Please correct me if I don't have this, please correct me if I don't have the correct correction. How about that? Trustees, look at the timeline, please. The third bullet from the bottom, that's about the middle of the slide. The last I understood is if we go into a leased facility, we could start non-credit courses this coming fall, which is fall of 2025, not 26. So non-credit, we could begin by this fall. And I wanted to make that clear because we're not talking a year from now. We're talking a few months. we have preliminarily looked at possibilities, and we believe that it is very possible that we could offer non-credit courses at a leased location, likely multi-year, 5 to 7-ish kind of lease, and start with the non-credit courses in August. We're talking about 3 months from now. Further, then, for the credit courses, SACS meets in December of 2025. They would then approve us for the credit courses, which would start in spring of 2026, next January for credit. So we could go ahead and fast track this and are ready to do so. A question that you haven't posed that I think might be in your mind is, can we afford it, given that we just had a budget workshop? So tentatively, we have already factored in this entire discussion with the leased facility at this amount, starting in August, and it is all doable within the budget that we discussed this morning. It's already included in that, and we would take it forward for all of that to be approved at the June meeting. So what we're looking for guidance is, if you are interested in us proceeding with a leased facility around that dollar range without additional fees, starting for August or September, we would include that in the final budget. We've already anticipated those kinds of costs. It would not change your budget at all from what you saw earlier. And we could begin this fall for non-credit moving into credit. Have I summarized that accurately?
That is correct.
And we feel that this is a nice opportunity then for Blinn to proceed both on the academic side, where you see, what was the phrase that Doug used? They're rolling towards us right now as we're standing here. And yet we see this huge interest in workforce, and we'd like to do both. We cannot build 2 buildings right now. So I think this is a very conservative, fiscally prudent, thoughtful way to proceed with the building that we're talking about, as well as with the lease facility on workforce. At some point, we will be looking at a second building on the RELIS for, not on RELIS, on Waller, for academic growth and others. And we may want to, at some point, put the workforce facility on our 100 acres. But we just can't do it all right now. So we're trying to be thoughtful about how we phase this through.
So the 340, the upper end?
Yes.
That includes the equipment and everything that we would need? No.
No. Leighton, would you outline? It's the lease itself.
Yeah,
That's just the lease, that's what I wanted to know.
And it's not even the full lease, it's just the rental rate. The common area maintenance, and there's cost to build out with the landlord and all those sort of things, that all has to be factored into this. This is just the rental rate that we have here. Also think about a lot of the equipment would be coming over from the Schultz Junior High to this location. It would not all be new equipment. We have a lot of this equipment in inventory already. We would just be moving it from one location to another, especially with the advanced manufacturing.
And all of that we have factored into potential within the budget that you saw earlier today.
Well, I think one thing we need to also consider is, I don't know if you all recall TSTC and their advance into Waller County, their interest in kind of usurping our ability to get in with the schools and with some of the businesses. Sounds like we've got some momentum right now, both with the school and with some businesses over there. If we can get into a building and really actually have the facility to do it, we may be able to take away some of their desire to do that.
I don't know if we'll take away the desire, but there is competition for the same locations, in which Blinn was already there and already offering, for example, advanced manufacturing. Then there would be less likely for another entity to be approved to come in and offer a duplication of services.
This seems very aggressive by 3 months from now. I didn't come in here today prepared to support leasing a facility when we're fixing to spend $80 million building a facility. I'm sorry. I can't imagine that we could be operating with all those listed programs, with all the required build out, and with all the required equipment 3 months from now. I can't imagine that that's even possible.
In some discussion with landlords that are in the area, we mentioned this timeline to them, and they said we could definitely be built out in that time.
Wow.
But will you have the students? I mean, because if you're talking about starting in fall, they need to be registered right now.
Right.
Right. which is part of the reason why we need some direction so we can plan accordingly. Now, this is as soon as we can start it. I want to touch on your question, Trustee O'Malley. We may phase in some of these, but we would be ready to go on the non-credit side, I believe on all of these. Is that correct? By September, August, September. Now, these are non-credit, so remembering that they can have flexibility on the start of the semester and the end of the semester. They're not academic courses, so they're not going to start necessarily at the same date. They have their own timeframes that they set up for the start of their classes, so it might be a 4-week program, it might be a 6-week program. It can vary, so we can set our own start and stop. So it's not tied to the exact registration that you might be thinking of in terms of credit students. Jay, I'd like for you to come forward and please correct me or if I haven't summarized accurately or if you want to add anything else.
You are correct. The credit-free can have start-stop dates to the extent of the flexibility of student services and enrollment. And the go live would be able to begin in the middle of a semester. So yeah, the credit-free does have flexibility with start-stop dates.
So it would be safe to say that sometime in the fall, this fall, if we lease a facility, we believe we can locate a facility very promptly. We believe that they would be ready to accommodate us, that we believe that they would be able to build out to our specifications and desires and requirements, and that we also further believe that we would be able to offer start the non-credit courses this fall, with the desire to then, now that we might have a location that we can identify, because we have to apply to SACS with the exact location where we will offer courses for credit, that we would then have the location. We could take that to the SACS December meeting and hopefully seek approval, and then we would be ready immediately after the SACS meeting for offering of credit courses.
And we do have slight differences in faculty credential requirements between SACS, which are the credit-bearing courses, and the credit-free courses. So again, pending the talent on board for us to be able to deliver, we would need to make sure that we have the faculty in place, which would also mean early postings to attract that talent.
And if we receive direction from the board to proceed accordingly, then Chair Binky, I would anticipate we would have an action item for the board to consider lease facility at the June meeting.
Do we have an estimate on the build-out cost? Typically, at least $100 a foot for 17,000 square feet. I would think you're looking at a couple $1 million.
No, not quite that much, Mr. O'Malley. Again,
Over
this
$1
is all
million, I'm sure.
extremely preliminary, but some
Well, if we're going to act on it in 30 days.
Correct. You know, and there's nothing's been put in stone in any of the conversations. But I believe one of the initial numbers was around $200,000. Is that correct? That was correct.
$10 a foot?
In some of the discussions we've had, the plans to build the building were already in place by the landlord, so the cost of the building is already factored into the rent. The specific build-out for our use, which some of the discussions have led to the ideas, the landlord is saying, or the potential landlord is saying, about $200,000 for that build-out.
So $10 a foot, that's a good deal.
That's what we're hearing.
That's a heck of a deal to drop a lot of electrical lines. It's interesting. I don't know how that's possible, but that's fine.
I think certainly there's more discussions to come.
Yep.
And I think that's why we're here talking with you today.
So we would make this ultimate decision in June?
At the June board meeting for discussion and approval.
We'd have more information to.
We'd be bringing real numbers to you at that point. These are pretty fairly good, strong estimates, but they are not final numbers. The reason we're seeking direction today is because if we want to take an agenda item to the June board meeting, we need to know so that we can go out and have further conversations. We would not do that without your direction. Leighton?
The culmination of this, if this is something you want to move forward in, is be like our normal discussion is we would identify a specific facility. So you would have information on not only the cost, but the specific facility itself, location, size, all those sort of things. That's what we're looking for, is if you want us to move forward, we will do that, and we will bring a specific item back to you that says this would be the building.
And isn't there a possibility that we can be updated of some of the stuff on OneNote as close if we decide to do this in the June board meeting? No, I'm saying if there was some dynamics, like talking about a million versus 200,000, that kind of stuff, would there be any other additional research information that we would get prior to June?
I think what Trustee Wells is asking is if there are any major updates or changes to what we've talked about today, can we discuss that prior to the June meeting? Can there be information shared about that? And we can look at ways to share that information with you prior to the June meeting if there's any major changes to what we're talking about today.
Thank you. If there were major changes, we would do it a couple of ways. One, we would inform you through our usual information process of sharing information. And the second one was we might call another board meeting just to discuss this one item. But I don't anticipate that being the case. I think that we will need the time between now and preparation for the June agenda item to get all of this, confirm a site and confirm everything that we believe we know at this point with finalization of cost and location and numbers, timing and everything. And that would require a presentation to you at the June board meeting. So I think we probably would go one of those routes.
So what would happen if the 4 credit courses you have to meet before December or know what you're going to offer? I guess what I'm wondering, because it just seems really rushed. What would happen if you waited till December to put forth those SACS, COC type courses?
Good question. Jay, and then I can answer if you'd like more.
Trustee Ayler, the question was, what if we waited until December? That would be fine.
Would that be fine?
Yeah.
It just seems so like.
Yeah.
She's talking about on the credit. I
Oh,
think
on the credit.
Her concern is, I believe, that she's wondering for registration purposes for starting in the spring, if we're not approved by SACS until December, how does that timing impact us? And the timing would be, I think, kind of the same answer. I'd like for you to expand on it. But the courses don't necessarily start on the same schedule for workforce and technical as the academic courses. So they have some fluidity on when they want to start a course and end a course, even though it's for credit as well. Anything else, Jay, you want to add to that?
No, nothing I want to add to it. I just want to be clear, though, that you're asking for start dates on credit-free or credit.
I was just wondering what would happen if you moved the start date more to spring of 26. And I know spring isn't ideal, but it just seems so. I mean, do you have students that are already?
We don't have the students that are asking for this at this point, and from that timeline shift, I'm going to ask Vice Chancellor Schubert about the relationship to the SAC COC submission if it were to move to December.
Well, the 4 credit courses, the earliest a 4 credit course could be offered at this facility is spring of 26. That's the very earliest, because SACS has to approve that before you offer a 4 credit course. The real question is, do we want to get non-credit courses started in the fall of 25? That's the real question. We will not be able to teach any 4 credit courses until the spring of 26, once we get SACS approval.
I'm asking if you move the non-credit to that start date too.
That start date is much more fluid because SACS is not involved in the non-credit courses. So that start date would be up to us to determine when we're ready to do that.
The start date could be in August, as early as August. It can't be any earlier than that, but it could be any time in the fall. It gives us a chance to kind of tiptoe, quote unquote, into offering workforce out there and getting set up. The non-credit numbers would be lower probably than the credit numbers in starting off. I understand in talking to Mark that there is a lot of competition for available facilities within the Waller area. And there's been some indication given to me that we might want to move expeditiously with this in order to try to secure a location that would be conducive to location and Blinn students.
I think that that's a great idea, to secure a location. We shouldn't need to pay any rent until we get a CO on it anyway. So whether that's in September or that's in January, you know, however the timing hits, that we actually can get everything done. Because what I'm hearing Trustee O'Malley say is that he's just not sure that they can happen in that quick a period of time. And maybe it could, but just in case it doesn't, at least we've got the location secured.
Right, and we need some move-in time and some setup time. There are things that we need to do to kind of fold into this. But the goal would be then that we are fully ready and operational for credit courses in January, hopefully.
Well,
Again, also, I just want to reiterate that every single thing that you saw on that list is going to lead to a credential of value, which translates into funding opportunities. All right, Trustee Benke, this is all the administration has today. I hope it was enough. We spent a few hours. I'd like to thank our faculty and staff. Are really wonderful, and they did a terrific job. And these kinds of presentations are taking a lot of time and a lot of thought and a lot of coordination. You all did a spectacular job. I'm very appreciative of you. At this point, then, we would just be looking for direction on how you would like for us to proceed.
We don't necessarily need a motion because we're not posted for action. What we want to do is just gauge your temperature. Do you want us to continue to drill down into this particular item, knowing the timelines and lead times that we have, that if we do want to start in the fall of '25, we need to secure a location?
I think we're not entering into any contractual arrangements right now. And everything I've heard from this board has been about having an emphasis on technical vocational training. So if that's what we continue to say about Waller, we need to continue to do our due diligence. So for me, I think that we need to just continue and stay the course.
So you're asking if we want to pursue a building?
Would you like for us to proceed? And what will happen if you give us direction to go ahead? We are going to work with our representatives here, and we're going to go out and try to find a facility and bring that back to you with all of the particulars that a board would need to know: cost, timing, all of it, for an action item potentially in June.
So let me clarify, Chancellor. Us giving y'all the green light is not to go out and contract with the building. It's
That
just
is
continue
correct.
to do more diligence to give us more information. to make an
Absolutely.
informed
We're just
decision.
getting the information to which we will bring back for discussion and potential approval at the June board meeting.
I think based on what I have heard today, there's demand for this and for competitive advantage, and I would certainly support that in June.
I would too.
Rebecca?
I would too.
Richard? Randy? Yes. Dennis had to step away, but I know that he has made comments in the past
Yeah,
about
he's very-
being concerned that we are addressing the workforce. So I know that our timing feels like we're on a extremely fast track here, but I would be willing to say that the board is in favor of continuing information.
Continue to pursue and gather information to bring back to you for potential discussion and action item at the June board meeting related to this matter.
Yes,
Is there a way
Thank
we
you.
can get that information, have a meeting ahead of time?
We may not have it ready in time. It's probably going to take us every bit of this leading up to it. But as Trustee Wells said, if there's something that needs to be updated to you, I will send you an update through our usual communication matters. If we need to have a separate workshop, although it's not anticipated, we could certainly work with you to call one. At this point, I would say that you would plan on not having another budget workshop or workshop on this topic, but rather we would just have it as an action item at the June board meeting. This would be incorporated as part of your approval of the final budget.
Thank you all, and thank you for your hard work. This has been a lot of effort, and it is noticed, so thank you very much. And I believe there's no executive session, so I'd like to have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Okay, we're going to take Wells for the motion and Ehlert for the second. All in favor? Aye. And as none opposed, this meeting is adjourned at 2:45.